After having understood the definition of Eemaan and understanding the proof which supports and substantiates that definition, and mentioning the detriments found in not understanding Eemaan in light of the way that Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah understands it, we want to look at where is the place of Eemaan. Because after understanding Eemaan, we have to understand now where is the place of Eemaan. Where is Eemaan cultivated from? Where is it nurtured? And this is a very important aspect of this particular lecture, because it's going to give us the miftah, the key that we need to move on to the rest of the lecture. The place of Eemaan is the qalb, is the heart. The place of Eemaan is the heart. Why is that important? Because if your heart is corrupt, then your Eemaan will not have a place to be nourished, nor will it have a place to sprout and to emerge from. If you want to plant a seed somewhere, you have to make sure that that ground is fertile before you put your seed there. Because if the ground is not fertile, if it's barren, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَالَّذِي خَبُثَ لَا يَخْرُجُ إِلَّا نَكِدًا, that if the ground is barren, it's not going to produce anything for you. And wallah al-azim, if we make muraqabah, if we evaluated ourselves, we will find that many of our problems stem from that particular issue right there. Many of us, our Eemaan doesn't increase to the level that we want it to be, or the potential that it has to increase, because the place of Eemaan is not fertile. The Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ فِي الْجَسَدِ مُضْغَةً إِذَا صَلَحَتْ صَلَحَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ وَإِذَا فَسَدَتْ فَسَدَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ أَلَا وَهِيَ الْقَلْبُ. That indeed in the body is a lump of flesh, that if that lump of flesh is salih, if it's good, then the whole body will be good. And if that lump of flesh is corrupt, then the whole body will be corrupt. That lump of flesh is the heart. That lump of flesh is the heart. So when we want to look at our Eemaan, why we're not increasing in Eemaan, why is my Eemaan decreasing, why is my Eemaan not increasing, then you have to take a look at your heart. As Abdullah ibn Aoun, who was from the contemporaries to Imam Malik, he said, التمسوا قلوبكم في ثلاث مواضع. Try to find your hearts in three places. التمس قلبك عند قراءة القرآن. Try to find your heart at the time when you're reading Quran. Try to find that your heart, قلبك حاضر, your heart is present, is there at the time when you're reading Quran. Conscious, ponder, reflect. Your heart being affected by what you read. وَالْتَمِسْ قَلْبَكَ عِنْدَ حِلَقَ الذِّكْرِ. And try to find your hearts in the circles of knowledge, where the knowledge of the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam is being disseminated. وَالْتَمِسْ قَلْبَكَ عِنْدَ الْخَلْوَةِ. And try to find your heart when you are alone, just you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, فَإِن لَمْ تَلْتَمِسْ قَلْبَكَ فِي هَذِهِ الثَّلَاثِ مَوَاضِعِ فَاسْأَلِ اللَّهَ أَنْ يَمُنَّ عَلَيْكَ بِقَلْبٍ جَدِيدٍ فَلَيْسَ لَكَ قَلْبٍ. He said, and if you can't find your heart in these three places, then just ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you another heart, because you don't have one. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you another heart, because you don't have one. And many of us, wallah al-azim, we don't know the Quran except in Ramadan. Imam Ahmed, قَلَّ يَوْمٌ إِلَّا وَهُوَ يَمُرُّ بِالْمُصْحَفِ وَيَنْظُرِ فِيهِ وَلَوْ لَمْ يَقْرَى شَيْءٍ مِّنْهِ. As it was mentioned about Imam Ahmed rahimahullah ta'ala, that there wasn't a day that went by except that if he passed by the Mus'haf, he would open it and look in it, even if he didn't read anything from it. لأن المصحف له شأن. But many of us, we got to blow the dust off of it when Ramadan comes around. And when we're alone, most of the time we're doing something we ain't got no business doing. And the circles of knowledge, Wallahu al-musta'an wa alayhi tuqlan. Circles of knowledge are abandoned. قال ابن القيم رحمه الله تعالى واسمعوا هذا كلام. قال ابن القيم رحمه الله تعالى قبول المحال لما يوضع فيه مشروط بتفريقه من ضده. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he said a statement that's profound. He said, in order for your heart to accept something to be put in your heart, then it has to be free from its opposite. So if we want true Eemaan to enter into our hearts, then the opposite of Eemaan, which is kufr, has to be removed. If we want true love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be placed in our hearts, then we have to remove the love for the dunya and everything else. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا جَعَلَ لِلرَّجُلِ قَلْبَيْنِ فِي جَوْفِهِ. And we have not made for one man two hearts. You can't love two things at the same time. You can't love everything, two things at the same time. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَتَّخِذُ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَنْدَادًا يُحِبُّونَهُ كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. لماذا؟ لأن حبه خالص. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that those who take for themselves deities other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they love them like they should love Allah. But those who believe, they are more severe in their love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because their love is solely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not mixed with anything. And this is why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Man sana'a ilaykum ma'rufan fakafi'u." That when someone does something good for you, then return the favor to him. Why? لأن عشان يعني قلبك يكون خالص لله. لأن من طبيعة البشر إذا صنع إليكم معروف يميل القلب إليه. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من صنع إليكم معروفا فكافئوه. لأن المواحد يجب عليه أن يكون قلبه خالص لله. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that when someone does something good for you, then return the favor. Why? So that your heart remains sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't feel like you owe him, because it's from the natural state of the human being. When someone does something for you, you feel like you owe him. And as a muwahid, someone dedicated to tawheed, your heart should belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Faqat. So when someone does something good for you, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, return the favor, so that your heart doesn't feel inclined towards the individual. And this issue of the heart, and this issue of it being the place of Eemaan, is very important for us. Because many of us, we don't evaluate our hearts. We don't look and see whether we are getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or we're removing ourselves further from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we'll stop here inshallah ta'ala, and we'll continue at the next scheduled time bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallama tasliman kathira.